Shalom everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Bruchim Habayim. We will talk tonight another Musarik, which means Jewish philosophy regarding ethics and characters, but it will stem again from the parasha of the week. The parasha of the week, as everyone knows, is Korach. Famous name? Korach, the Torah portion this week begins with the words Vaikach Korach. Everybody knows the story of Korach. He became an example to people who bring dissension, machloket, disputes and arguments, as well as engendering hatred and jealousy and so forth. Which means when we refer to Korach, we refer to him as a negative personality of the Bible, which is the truth. Korach, in fact, was a very, very distinguished person among the people of Israel. He was one of the top leaders of the Jewish people in that generation that we call Dor HaMidbar, the generation of the wilderness, which is known as Dor De'ah, the generation of knowledge. Listen, these were 4 years in the history of our ancient people, which followed immediately after the giving of the Torah at the mountain of Sinai. So you understand, you cannot compare us to people who just saw the magnificent sight of the giving of the Torah at the mountain of Sinai. You understand that the minds and the persons and the personalities are totally of different character, of much higher ethical level in every sense of the word. They were smarter, they were greater. And that is the tradition in our Jewish literature. That generation was the kind of generation that will never be again. This was the generation of the Jewish people that practically gave birth to that which we call the Jewish mind. And yet, the Bible, the Torah, is replete with cases in which we find that this very generation, sinned from time to time, beginning with the sin of the Egel, the golden calf, and then prostitutions with the daughters of Moab, and other situations which sometimes were considered to be negative. And one is to ask a question: how come people so great should go down on their level? The answer is usually we really do not understand. We do not understand. All we can do is trying to learn with a superficial understanding the history of our ancient people. One of these people was Korach. Thank you for reminding me that I should shut off my... Korach, as I said, was one of the most distinguished persons in all the tribes of Israel. Very, very smart, very intelligent. And yet we refer to him as a person who was, in Hebrew, pikeach, intelligent, clairvoyant. But normally, in the Jewish vernacular, we refer to very smart people by the term chacham, smart, wise. But that's not how we refer to Korach, and there is a reason. When you refer to someone by the adjective chacham, it means that not only that he is wise, but he is a man, a very serious stature. He is a man of great character. And as King Solomon said in the book of Proverbs, Chokhmat Adam ta'ir panav. The wisdom of a person is on his face. It's shining. And we spoke last week and before about the illumination and the light that God projects on the Blessed One. If you remember, we spoke about the light. A real Chacham would have on his face the light of Torah. But a person who has failed to bring with total unification the level of his wisdom together with his ethics, which means he failed in his character, we cannot refer to him by the term Chacham. Now we refer to him by the term Pikeach. Pikeach in Hebrew, for anybody who knows Hebrew, it means a person with an open eyes, smart, but totally in a different tune than when we say Chacham. And this of course refers to what the Midrash tells us. The Midrash is asking, Korach shepikeach haya, Korach who was known for his tremendous wisdom, Mara ali shtut zo. What happened to him that he committed such a foolishness? What was the foolishness of Korach? That he challenged Moshe. And everybody knows the story that Korach, out of jealousy, out of desire for more honors, call it this way, but primarily jealousy, which we call in Hebrew kin'ah. The word in Hebrew kin'ah means jealousy, but why is it called kin'ah? If you remember, we told you many times that every single word in Hebrew, you have to know its meaning. Unlike the other languages in the world, which are rather agreemental, heskemim, which means if thank you is what everybody understands, you don't have to explain the word thank you. But in Hebrew, when you say todah, it means everybody knows it is thank you, but what is todah? So it is derived from the fact lehodot, which means to aggrandize someone. So when you say thank you, it means that now you are looking at this person whom you are thanking as a superior being, as a person to whom you owe something. Therefore you are inferior to him. That's the philosophical understanding of the meaning of thank you in Hebrew. So the word kin'ah, which means jealousy, comes from the word kinyan. Kinyan means acquisition. Like it says, Koneh shamayim va'aretz in the prayer. God is the one who has acquired heaven and earth. He is the owner. So why do we call jealousy kin'ah in the term of acquisition? Because a person who is jealous, that's a person who wants to possess and acquire possessions that are not his. I'm jealous, why should he be a millionaire? I'm jealous of him. So that means that jealousy involves a sense of covetousness. You desire something that is not yours, which could cover many areas in the weaknesses of mankind. And normally people are jealous by nature. And why is that? Because God created that which we call jealousy. Do you know anyone who doesn't know the meaning of jealousy? Everybody is jealous of the other. In fact, the famous Chovot Alvavot, Rabbeinu Bachya the Sfardi, who lived approximately 900 years ago, he gave us the first classic of ethics of the Jewish people by the name Chovot Alvavot, the duties of the heart. And he said that primarily what made this world is jealousy. What is it that caused the world to progress and to have so many acquisitions? Because of jealousy. Because people say, he has this, I must be also like him, or at least like him, or even more. Then you strive to do more. But that's the good side of jealousy. Like King Solomon said, Kinat Sofrim Tarbe Chochma. It says when you are jealous of the wise, of the scholar, that will increase wisdom in the world. You see somebody who is very smart and very knowledgeable, you're envious of his knowledge, so you get busy and learn. And therefore, wisdom will increase. That's the reason why God created the character of jealousy. The problem is, as we have discussed, if you followed our lectures, then you would remember that we said that God, when He created nature with all its characters, He was forced to give dominion to Satan, to give him his share. And his share was extremely powerful in everything. We even discussed in the past, I remember we discussed the ethical philosophy of Ga'ava, which means haughtiness. When a person is arrogant, that's a terrible trait of character as regarded by our sages. But still we have to regard this as one of the things that God created. And if God created it, it means it's good. So, in which way can we describe arrogance and haughtiness in a vein that is good? Usually an arrogant guy does not please. A person who's conceited immediately is insulting. To see people who think that they are superior to others, that's ugly. Our sages said, anyone who has arrogance is like if he worships idols, or he has no share in the world to come. People should regard others at least equal to themselves. Moshe regarded himself inferior to everyone. That's why he was praised in the Torah last week. והאיש משה ענב מאוד מכל האדם אשר על פני האדמה. And the man, Moshe, see, not just a broken guy, a man with all his medals, a man with all his greatness in every single facet in the characters of people, he was the greatest. And yet he regarded himself as the smallest of all human beings. And if the Torah testifies on that, it means it is true. Because usually people would like to say, yeah, I am smaller than, I am humble. People are people. It's not very easy to find someone who is truly humble. You'll find maybe a broken-hearted person who is truly humble. What else can you expect? But Moshe he was the king of Israel, and yet he was the most humble. And the Torah says so, which means it is true. So when you say that, yes, I understand. But when we are referring to somebody who is haughty, conceited, it's always negative. And yet the question is, but God created the trait of ga'ava, pride. So it should be good. The answer is yes. He created it for the purpose. Let's say, for example, here is a good example. A Jew must be proud of his heritage. When you are being asked, what religion are you? And let's say you are traveling in a train in Europe or something, you don't say I'm Chinese, or you say I am a Jew. And by the way, in this case you're allowed to raise a little bit your head and say I am a Jew. To be a Jew is something to be proud of. It's not easy to be a Jew. Everybody knows that. It's very complicated to be a Jew. You know, once you are a Jew, you become responsible for everything. Everything. You did it or not, you're responsible. You know, like the guys in the times of the Nazi era, when the Nazis started to blame, they took one Jew and they told him, you're responsible for everything. So the Jew said, I am responsible? It's not me. I'm not responsible for everything. It's the bicycle. And the two Nazis said, the bicycle? What are you talking about? They said to him, why the bicycle? He said, why the Jews? But unfortunately, this is something that goes on. We are responsible for everything. Apparently, it is definitely a testimony of greatness. If they are blaming us for everything, it means we must be quite important. But that's on the side. So God created the pride for a good purpose. So that people should be proud to do something that is important. People should be proud to carry the lulav at the time of Sukkot, even in the subway, not to be ashamed. Unless if it is dangerous. I'm not talking about in places where it is dangerous. One should be proud to go with a kippah on his head. One should be proud to take his tefillin on his hand in the morning to the synagogue and going through the streets. One should be proud. One should be proud to raise his children in a way that they should look very religious, with pe'ot and everything. That's what pride was created for. There is also the pride of Talmid Chacham. The Talmud tells us, Talmid Chacham chayav shetihye bo shminit sheba ga'ava. A Torah scholar is under the obligation to be a little bit, not arrogant, but a little bit haughty. 1/8 of an eighth. That's a very small amount of ga'ava, of haughtiness that was allowed him. Why is that? It's not because a real Torah scholar wants to be arrogant. He doesn't want. But he has to himself also respect his own Torah. The Torah that he carries, he must refer to it with, and therefore he becomes somebody who is respected by everyone. Of course, in other places he might be the one upon whom they throw rocks, like it happened many times. So the question is, why is it that God created pride if it's not good? So the answer is, yes, it is good. Unfortunately, he gave a share into Satan, and Satan knows how to use it to his means, and automatically now most of the world behaves with arrogance, and that is so destructive upon the world. The same thing also with jealousy, which is also a branch of ga'ava, by the way. It's a branch of arrogance, because when you are jealous of someone who perhaps is more knowledgeable than you, but you are jealous of him, and you say, and just because of that you hate him, that's a very bad jealousy. That's a kind of jealousy that is destructive. Jealousy was created for the purpose to enhance life, to make you work and become also as good as this fellow, as this doctor or this engineer. Not just to envy him and do nothing about it. Or somebody who is rich. Why should you be jealous of him? You should be content with what God gave you, and that's it. Everyone has his mazal. Everyone has his share. For some, the share is small. For some, the share is big. There is a reason behind everything. And it's all written in one very special book that's called the Book of God. When you envy someone because of his millions, it means that your personality is inferior. That's called in the vernacular of our sages, yesh, of the word orchot, of the book Orchot Tzadikim. It's called Gri'uta de Nafsha. His nefesh, his soul, is inferior when somebody is jealous. Jealousy is not good. Jealousy is very destructive. And here we have, especially when jealousy is among impressive people, because that becomes ultra dangerous. And here is Korach. Korach envied Moshe. The truth is that in the Midrash we find that he was envious of another member of his family, Elitzaphan ben Uziel, who was proclaimed to be the prince, and Korach said, I am better than him. Why shouldn't I be the one? But the truth is that the Torah reveals to us that he was envious of Moshe also, of the leadership of Moshe. And this man who was so versed in the Torah, because he did not watch himself to correct himself from that sickness which we call jealousy, and make no mistake about it, as Rabbeinu Yonah in his book Sha'arei Tshuva writes, that the worst mistake is jealousy. The worst sickness is jealousy. And there are many ways how to escape jealousy. There are many ways, and we are taught to learn the books of Musar, such as this one, to combat our instinctive feelings of jealousy. Because jealousy could make you sick if you don't master it, if you don't control it. And you could cause a lot of destruction. And here is Korach, a man of supreme riches. He was known as the richest man in the world. Our sages said in the Talmud of Masechet Sanhedrin that the riches of the whole world was divided in 3 parts. The third was given to Korach. Imagine how much money he had. I mean, in fact, anybody who knows Hebrew knows that when you are very rich, and if somebody of inferior nature would describe the rich man, he would say, oh, he's rich, he's, like they say in English, filthy rich. So they say, Ashir ke Korach. Am I right, Marina? Huh? Ashir ke Korach. He's as rich as Korach. He was very rich. But not only that he was rich, he was also very smart. And he was also of princely descent. He was everything. And he became envious of the leadership of Moshe. And he decided to challenge Moshe. And watch what happened to him. Look how much jealousy can be so dangerous that if you don't watch it, you could become a kofer bakol, which means an atheist. You could become, even if you are a very, very versed person, if you don't watch yourself, it could bring you to such a degradation of practically denying the truth of the Torah, or denying the truth of the existence of God, just because of jealousy. Or sometimes because of kavod, the desire for honors, just to show that you are an important man, you will just proclaim, there is no God. Who still believes in those things? Even though you believe in God. But that's the only way how you can show your kind of society that you are a progressive person. Am I right or not? Did you ever encounter such a situation? That people out of ga'ava, out of kavod, the desire for honors, like today with liberals and, there are many people who disagree with liberalism in certain ways, and yet they will not dare show it. Why? Because if they show that they are not liberals, they will be considered inferior. That's the danger of those traits of character, such as ga'ava, as we said, haughtiness, such as jealousy, such as envy, covetousness, to covet, to desire what others have, and as well as kavod, honors, to look for honors. This is what the story of Korach. And Korach challenged Moshe to a certain level that practically brought him to be equal to a person who has denied the existence of the Torah and the truth of the Torah. Here is what the Midrash tells us. The Midrash tells us that Korach got up. And by the way, like we say in French, in every situation, cherchez la femme. You know what's cherchez la femme? I mean, look always for the woman behind. Korach also had a wife that, according to our sages, she's the one who encouraged him. I mean, she said, what's going on? I see Moshe is the king, Aaron is the high priest, and what do you have? So you became their student or what? When I know you are the greatest. He was encouraged. And he went ahead with his plan to raise, to go and organize a group of 250 of the most prominent and illustrious people of the congregation of Israel. And don't tell me you don't believe it, because when you are very rich, your influence is very big. You know, even sometimes when people disagree with you, just because you're very rich, he's going to follow you. It's known. If you are very poor, boy, even if you are the smartest man, you will need a lot of luck to cause people to come and follow you. Like King Solomon said, "Chokhmata misken bezuya." The wisdom of the poor guy is very belittled. But Korach was a very prominent man. All he needed was to look upon people, and people would come after him. Many people were afraid of this dissension that he caused. But they had no choice. They had to follow. There was another guy in that congregation, On ben Pelet, from the tribe of Reuven. Listening, Reuven? From the tribe of Reuven there was another guy who was also a very important man, and he belonged to the society of Korach. But his wife was very smart. She said to him, "You're crazy, On. Don't be stupid, my husband. You know, what Korach is now preparing is very dangerous. If Korach wins, you have nothing. If Moshe wins, you have nothing. Why would you endanger your life?" And he said, "What can I do? What can I do? I cannot say no. Korach is very, very, very prominent, very powerful. How can I say no to him?" She said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of that. Just stay home. Don't get out. I'll get out." She got out of the house. She set her hair in a way that is not very much not in compliance with her level. In other words, she looked like a prostitute. And she sat down at the threshold of her house. And the people of Korach were coming to invite also On. "Hey, On, you're with us, let's go against Moshe." When they were coming, still the congregation of Israel was a holy congregation. When they saw a woman of very doubtful, questionable behavior, so they said, "Oh, there is not such a clean woman there. Let's get off the street. Let's go to another street." And that's how she saved the life of her husband. So from this, our sages said, a good woman can save her life of her family. A bad woman can cause the destruction of her family. In the case of Korach, unfortunately, he succeeded to have 250 people that followed him, and all of them, as you know in the story of the Torah, they all ended up being swallowed by the earth. You know the story, you know. Korach came and he challenged Moshe in a very frightful way, in a very undignified way. Moshe, in the eyes of all the congregation, was now didn't, and Moshe is a very humble man. And the Torah tells us that by Paul Moshe al panav, he fell on his face, as though, I don't know what to do. He's causing a big split among the people of Israel, and how am I going to fight him? It was a broken-hearted Moshe, because that was the worst and the most painful time of his life. That was the time of Korach. Here is the argument of Korach towards Moshe. As I told you, when a person stemmed by his jealousy, when a person is led by his jealousy, then he could even go as low as the worst kind of atheist, a person who denies the truth of the Torah, which is known as the worst. He said to Moshe, "I'm going to prove to you that the Torah that you gave us is false, that you were not given these instructions, and you gave us wrong instructions. And Korach, who was known as a demagogue, very intelligent person, he said to Moshe, tell me, Moshe, a talit shekulah techelet. You said that the Torah says, and here we are going into the halachic issue of the night. You said that the Torah says that you have to put, when you wear something with 4 corners, you have to put tzitziot, fringes, blue, the kind of blue fringes which we don't have today anymore. That's why we put only white. When you have 4 corners, you have to put the mitzvah of tzitzit, the talit. That's why we have a special talit with 4 fringes that fall on 4 corners. And this, where do we take it from? From a chapter of a paragraph from the Torah that everybody practically knows by heart. That's the 3rd portion of Shema. וידבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם אמור בני ישראל ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת. The Torah says they must have a blue sky type of fringes that will be put on each corner if you are going to wear a vest or a garment which has 4 corners. That's the reason, by the way, why in the synagogues we put the talit in order to fulfill the mitzvah of the Torah of tzitzit. And that's why good Jews also carry a talit katan. They wear constantly a little tzitzit just for the purpose to fulfill this mitzvah of the Torah. This mitzvah becomes important and obligatory only when you wear 4 corners. Otherwise, you are not under the obligation to put it. The only reason why we do put a little tzitzit, religious people would put a small talit under their shirt, is so it is a protective measure. It is something that keeps you from ill-fated plans. Will prevent you. How can you go to a bar with a tzitzit in you? Usually people would find it a little... that doesn't mean you will not find people like this, but usually that's how it goes. People with the tzitzit on their vestments, you could trust them. They are not going to go to some places that are not befitting a normal human being. So therefore that protects. It's also a mitzvah, which, by the way, I'm telling you. So now we understand that this law of tzitzit comes from the Torah that tells us v'natenu al tzitzit hakanaf petil techelet. Techelet means blue. The blue fringes, petil techelet. We have 4 of them. So now Korach comes and says to Moshe, you mean to tell me that this law came from God? Alright, what about if I take a whole talit, a whole nice shawl that is all blue? Wouldn't that be evident that if it is all blue, you don't have to put any more blue fringes? Because it's all blue, what do you want? So he asked Moshe, what would you say? A shawl that is all blue, should we put the 4 fringes? And Moshe said, yes, chayevet b'tzitzit. That's the law. You have to put. Aha, he said to him. You see? Don't tell me God gave you this kind of law. How can you say such a thing? 4, small fringes that are blue would exempt the whole shawl from any more of that type, and the whole shawl that is blue will not exempt the fringes of blue. He gave him another example. And that is going to take us a few minutes, because we are going to discuss the law of mezuzah. Because this is one of the other instigations that were meant for an argument to bring Moshe to some kind of embarrassment. Because Moshe didn't have to know the meaning behind everything. God did not tell him the reason for every mitzvah that we have. As you know, the Torah does not have a reason for any mitzvah except 2 mitzvot. Of 613 mitzvot that we have in the Torah, only 2 mitzvot have a reason. For example, the Torah says, Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha. Very quickly. Honor your parents. Why? So that you will have a long life. But usually in every kind of other mitzvah, the Torah does not tell me why. All it tells me is do it. So now Korach is going to embarrass Moshe, because he's going to tell him with a very logical challenge, explain to me why we should have a blue tzitziot. When if I wear a whole shawl that is blue, it should cover everything, and I don't need to put tzitziot. But Moshe said to him, I'm sorry, you still have to put tzitziot because that's the law. Aha! You see that you are giving us something that is not truthful. And he gave him another example. He said, tell me, Moshe, Bayit Male Sfarim, a house full of Torah books. You know, let me tell you something. The Torah, the Sefer Torah that we read on Shabbat and Monday and Thursday, has 275 chapters. Remember, there are 275 parashiyot in all the Torah. And we read them during 52 weeks of the year. Because every parasha has several portions, has several chapters. So now Korach says to him, tell me, a house full of scrolls of Torah to the rim, does it need mezuzah or not? And Moshe said to him, yes. Aha! He said to him, you see, I caught you again. You're giving us lies. You mean to tell me, what do we write in the mezuzah? One small chapter of the Torah. The chapter of Shema, right? He says, you mean to tell me that one mezuzah that has one chapter of the Torah exempts the whole house from any more mezuzot? Which means, from any more, as long as you don't have any doorpost. You could have a whole room and only one entrance, and you need one mezuzah. And even if the room is full to the rim with Torahs, all you need is one mezuzah. So Korach said to him, how is it possible that a house that is full of the whole Torah, which has 275 parashiot, would not be exempt from mezuzah, and yet mezuzah, which is one chapter of the Torah, should exempt the whole house from anything? That doesn't make sense. Therefore, the Torah that you brought us is not a true Torah. And that's how we see that Korach practically became a kofar bakol. Not that he didn't know, he knew the truth more than anyone. But jealousy brought him to be so stupid. But in the meantime, he embarrassed Moshe. Moshe's purpose is not to give us a reason. You know what happens with reason? You know, the Mefarshim explain, the commentators explain, why is it that God did not give us? Why is it that the Torah does not tell me the reason behind every mitzvah? I'll ask you a question. Why the Torah says do not eat pork? Why? Oh, he says because Hashem says so. That means there is no reason. If there is anyone who can tell me a reason, I'm willing here to pay. I don't have much money, but I'll pay. Whatever. Yes.
Well, it's not.
But I'm telling you, something that is written in the Torah. That's what I'm asking. Otherwise, I'll tell you several reasons. But that's not the reason that the Torah brings. The Torah does not tell me any reason. They will tell you because of health purposes. Shtuyot. That's not true. There are many people who ate pork all their life and yet they live to be 100. Oh yes. Because if it was clear and sure, like this mosquito which fell on my glasses, I wonder why did he... And look at that, how he grabs it. Amazing. Go good.
Wow.
Did you see that? Unbelievable. So, what was I saying, Simcha?
Why is it written that you're not supposed to eat pork?
Why? The Talmud tells us something. But you have to understand that the Talmud is only fulfilling a certain small obligation of opening our eyes a little, but that's not the true meaning. The Torah is full of secrets. Remember, the Torah is the mind of God. And God cannot bring himself to tell us the reason behind everything. It would be too much for our mind. It's impossible. Like today they find with the codes and everything, because the Torah means billions of things. So, don't tell me, and yet people are very careful. Kosher people will not eat pork. And why? They don't know. The Torah doesn't say so. Such a very grave thing, and yet you don't know why not. The Talmud says, why do we call it chazir? Chazir is the Hebrew word for pork. She'atid Hashem le'achziru. One day it will become kosher. Huh? If anybody wants to keep any hope for that, okay, be my guest. When the Mashiach comes, apparently the chazir, the pork, will be kosher. So that adds to the mystery. That's a mystery. But the Torah does not tell me. Go ahead, Marina, tell me why. You had a reason, right?
Well, there are 3 signs to the kosher animals. I mean, the Torah gives
Okay,
3 signs.
but that does not tell me the reason why we shouldn't. It tells me only the type that is proclaimed in the Torah as non-kosher. It does not tell me why. You know what? The chazir is very dangerous because he is half kosher. You know why he is half kosher? What makes an animal not kosher at all? When it has split hooves, the hooves are split, and he chews the cud. When he doesn't chew the cud, he is not kosher. When he has no split hooves, he is not kosher. The chazir has one of them. He has split hooves. He doesn't chew the cud, so does he chew the cud? I don't know anymore. I hardly saw. So you see, so therefore, what does he say? He raises his hooves and he says, "You see, I am kosher." That's a very dangerous type of person when he says, "You see, I am kosher." And the truth is that he is not. That's why chazir is the worst of all the non-kosher things. But in the meantime, we don't know why. The Torah gave us several signs by which we recognize a kosher animal from a non-kosher animal, but it does not tell me why this is kosher, why this is not kosher. You cannot eat a lion. Why? Doesn't say why. Right? You cannot eat a turtle, even though it makes good soup, I heard. Don't say yes, please. Then I'm going to suspect. So you see, the Torah does not tell me no, does not tell me why. Why is this yes, why this is no. So we go by the Torah, and you see, Baruch Hashem, the Jewish people is in agreement with that. Most of the Jewish people, they keep the laws of kashrut properly, to the best of their ability, without asking too many questions. Why do we have to do Brit Milah? Brit Milah is the most painful thing that one could do on his most cherished possession, his baby. And lo and behold, the Jewish people goes crazy and they do that. And we are not even given a reason why. The Torah does not tell me, you know why I want you to do this? Because of this and that. There is no such a thing. The Torah says, Yimol lo kol zachar. Let the child be circumcised. Bayom Hashemini, Yimol besar orlato. On the 8th day, he should circumcise his foreskin. Why? Nobody says anything. Yes, it is true that there are many reasons in Kabbalah. There are many reasons. That's not the subject now. We're talking about jealousy. But there is a reason behind everything, but not in the Torah. Which means the Torah is not for the purpose to tell me a reason. You go to the oral Torah, if you want, you will get a few reasons here and there. So now, Korach is challenging Moshe on that basis. In the eyes of all the people who do not know much, when they see that Moshe himself cannot give an intelligent answer, he just might get a big chunk of the Jewish people to be disappointed and might even reject the religion. Do you see what jealousy can cause? Especially if the guy is very important? Unbelievable. So what happened to Korach? So Moshe said in Beri'ah, if there is such a thing in nature that the earth can open itself, let it open itself and swallow Korach and all his congregants. And the land, the earth opened up. It was an earthquake. Whatever happened, we don't know. It opened up, and Korach, with all his followers, with all their families, the children, women, everything, went down inside, swallowed forever. The Talmud tells us until today, there is a story in the Talmud of a certain Arab, a nomad, who knew that secret. In the desert, there was a place where there was a hole, and from that hole, when he came to hear what's going on there, he heard voices that saying, Moshe emet, v'torato emet, Moshe emet, v'torato emet. The voices of the people of Korach who were swallowed. And they kept saying, while going into Gehinnom, they were saying, Moshe is the truth, and his Torah is the truth, which means they were trying to repent when it was too late already, so it remained forever. Forever, those voices were kept sounding in that way. And Korach was lost. And not only that, the Torah tells us that even his money was completely covered by the earth. Should ask question, why? What did the money do?
And that's your question. Didn't his sons...
Very good, Marina. His uvnei Korach lo metu. The Torah says the children of Korach himself did not die.
They made the tshuva.
Because they did tshuva 1 second before. So the Torah says that clearly. Uvnei Korach lo metu. Did not die. Unbelievable. It's a very tragic story. But it has shown us, it became a guide for people who observe and understand to be very careful from that which we call jealousy, which we call desiring honors, too much honors. And that's the problem. And not only that, our sages said, the Torah says that even his riches was swallowed by the earth. And you should ask a question. If he sinned, why did his riches? Why his money made him sin? Very good. In fact, this is the answer. But still, money is only money. It does not have a mind of its own. What you said is very true. That's what they say. But we have to give you a little reflection here. Still, the money has no mind. Why should it be punished? In order to answer this question, we have to go back to the story of Bil'am. Remember Bil'am with his donkey? So it says, the story of Bil'am, he sinned, and then his donkey saw what he couldn't see. And then they tell us that the donkey died after it saw the angel, which means she was better than Bil'am himself. His own donkey was superior to him. He couldn't see the face of the angel, but the donkey saw the angel. And yet the donkey died. Our sages said because God is very careful about the honor of human beings. If Bil'am would have died, and the donkey, or let's say if the donkey would have survived, everyone will say, that's the donkey of Bil'am, which was able to see the angel when Bil'am himself could not see the angel. God does not tolerate that, even for a person that is negative like Bil'am. Even an evil man like Bil'am, God respects him. And he says, for that, even though the sinner is Bil'am, but I am going to kill the donkey so that people will not think that that's the reason why Bil'am died. Out of deference to Bil'am. The same thing also with the riches of Korach. If the riches of Korach would have survived, they would all say, this is the money that caused Korach to sin, like you just thought. Therefore, out of deference, out of respect to Korach himself, God destroyed everything. That money will come back one day. By the way, yes. It says so in the Talmud. Who cares about it now? So, what was the halachic issue which we didn't touch yet is the law of mezuzah. So he said to Moshe, Bayit Malet Farim, a house full of scrolls. And it requires a mezuzah? Impossible. And you tell me that one small mezuzah exempts everything, when a whole house full of Torahs does not exempt you from mezuzah? That doesn't make any sense. And Moshe didn't tell him. As we have explained, the Torah is not here to tell us reasons. Which brings us to ask the question about mezuzah. I'm not going to tell you why do we put a mezuzah, because the answer is obvious. Why? The Torah, like... I forgot your name. Like Simcha. You two are Simcha? Yerbu smachot be'Israel. May the smachot will be all the time among the people of Israel. So Simcha. Because, why is it that we have to put mezuzah? Because the Torah says we have to put mezuzah. Like it says in the Torah, that's the tefillin. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. You have to write a mezuzah and put it on the doorpost of your doors, of your house. Now, many people have a misconception about mezuzah. Many people think that mezuzah is something that is like a charm, a talisman, or an amulet for protection. That's not the purpose of the mezuzah. As we said before, the mezuzah is there as an emblem of the Jewish people for every house of the Jewish people, every doorpost. Why? Because the Torah says that you have to put there. That's how Jews identify themselves. That's all. But it is true that there is also some kind of protection that is given because of a good mezuzah, by the way. A kosher mezuzah, it could be kosher, but it's not so good. But a very beautiful mezuzah can really offer some kind of protection. That is true. I'm not trying here to make any business, believe me. So you have why do we know this? We know it from the Talmud. The Talmud tells us a story of Artaban, a Greek Jew, very rich Jew, in the time of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, like the great Rabbi, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the holy Rabbi, who lived 1900 years ago. He was the richest rabbi in all the history of Israel, and he's the one who, Baruch Hashem, because of him we are alive today. Because of him we have the Talmud. Without the Talmud there would be no Jewish people today, everybody knows that. One day, Artaban, this rich person, sent a diamond that's worth $1 million as a gift to Rabbeinu HaKadosh. And Rabbeinu HaKadosh received the gift. Wow, great. He sat down immediately. He has to reciprocate. He has to send him a gift also. What did he do? What was the gift that he gave him? A mezuzah. He sent him, I'm sure it was a good mezuzah, and he sent him a mezuzah as a gift. Artaban, who was not very knowledgeable, he was not a Torah man, he retorted and he said, what is this? I sent him a gift, $1 million gift, he sends me $10 gift. Then a mezuzah was worth $10, so to speak. He couldn't understand. So he sent a letter to Rabbeinu HaKadosh. He said, Rabbi Yehuda, I don't understand. I sent you a gift that represents your honor. You sent me a gift that is where I asked some people, they told me it's only $10. He said, you don't understand, my friend. You sent me a gift that I have to protect from being stolen, right? I sent you a gift that will protect you. So you know the difference? The difference is enormous. That was the answer. So from this story, by the way, we learn that there is a bonus of protection by a good mezuzah. But remember, Rabotai, that's not the reason of a mezuzah. The reason why we have to put a mezuzah, it's one of the 613 mitzvot that the Jews are obligated to observe. That's all. But we have many laws regarding this, such as, let's say you enter a new house. People have another misconception in their mind. They think it's quite known that they can wait for a mezuzah up to 30 days. When they enter a new apartment or a house, that you have a time of 30 days. I want to discuss this halachically from the point of view of halakha to see how valid this is. Which means, the question is this: are we under the obligation to put a mezuzah as soon as we enter a new apartment or a new house and to make a blessing on it, or we have time for 30 days that we can stay without? The first posek that I will bring here to give us an answer is the Magen Avraham, which is known by the people who study the Shulchan Aruch, the big Shulchan Aruch. The Magen Avraham in Orach Chaim in Siman 13, chapter 13, he says, Yesh isur midrabanan lagur bevayit she'en bo mezuzot. You have to understand, once you enter a house without mezuzah, you are committing a sin. A sin from the sages. Exactly like if you put a garment of 4 corners without putting tzitzit. I remember I used to teach in Manhattan 2 children, long time ago, in a rich family. And one day, their father showed me how he bought from Mexico a shawl which has 4 corners. A poncho. Very good. And he asked me, what should we do? Can I wear it or not? I said to him, well, according to the Torah, you have to put tzitziot. It looks like a talit. You have to put 4 fringes, 4 corners. He says, but I can't. I'm in Manhattan. It's not nice. I said to him, then I have another idea. Here is what you should do. You allow me? I said to him, give me your scissors. I went to one corner and I made it round. I cut it in a way that it's not anymore square, it is now rounded. And automatically you are exempt from tzitzit. But if you have exactly 4 corners, you have to have tzitziot there. That's a law. Thank God, today we don't have 4 corners vestments, so you don't have to go outside. Inside, that's a different story. That people who are religious, they put the talit kata. That's already something. That's up to you. Now, the Magen Avraham tells us that there is a prohibition in going into a house, not 30 days. I mean, from the first day. But that is only if you have the possibility to find the mezuzah quickly. If you cannot find it, let's say you are in your house and now it's Shabbat. You have a mezuzah, but suddenly it fell. And when somebody picked it up, he found out that the mezuzah is not kosher. And it is Shabbat. That doesn't mean that you are going to commit a sin if you stay that Shabbat without a mezuzah. You can't put a mezuzah on Shabbat, right? So you could wait until the next day. Or until you find another mezuzah. Which means we are talking about within the possible. When you have the possibility to acquire another mezuzah, and you don't because you say to yourself, I have plenty of time, I have 30 days, you are transgressing the law of the mezuzah. Which means we learn from this that there is no such a thing as 30 days, except if you have no other choice. But if you have a choice and you have the possibility to get it, your obligation is for the very minute you enter the house.
Now the rooms that you live in, for example...
And by the way, the rule of 30 days, even when you don't have, in Israel is much more exigent. In Israel there is no 30 days. Outside Eretz Israel you have 30 days in case it's difficult for you to obtain a mezuzah. You have 30 days. Anyway, that's what do you do if you cannot get it? Let's say it happened on Shabbat, so we allow you until the next day. Then you could stay in the meantime without it. This is the psak, by the way, of the Pitche Tshuva in Yoreh De'ah in chapter 285, as well as in the Ben Ishha in Parashat Kitavo, as well in Aruch HaShulchan Yoreh De'ah chapter 285. This I am saying for anybody who is interested. We understand from all those poskim that one has to do his best to get a good mezuzah as soon as he can, and there is no such a thing as 30 days, especially if you are in Eretz Israel. By the way, here is the thing which perhaps suggested what we said to the people. If one rents an apartment from somebody else, in Israel, not in Israel, outside, in America, then let's say if you don't have the possibility to get a mezuzah quickly, you have 30 days. Why? That's what we find in the Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah in chapter 288. The reason behind this, the Rishonim explain. Rashi and Tosfot in Masechet Menachot on page 44, we find the following. According to Rashi, why is it that 30 days are given to you in the case when you rented an apartment? So you have 30 days outside Eretz Israel. Why? Because we don't consider a person a resident until 30 days have passed. Which means, according to Rashi, 30 days are essential to find out if this man is really going to stay there or not. As you know, the law of mezuzah does not pertain to somebody who is a temporary resident. Like, give me an example. Sukkah, very good. When you go to the sukkah, you don't have to put a mezuzah. Why? Because it's only temporary. It's only 7 days, 8 days, and that's it. So therefore, there's no need for mezuzah. We require mezuzah only for a permanent residence. Our sages allowed us 30 days. After 30 days, then we know you are permanent. But before you are not permanent, and that's the reason why outside Eretz Israel, you are considered, you are having those 30 days in case it's difficult for you to find a mezuzah. And a similar explanation by the Tosfot in the laws of mezuzah. According to the understanding that we understand from Rashi, what happens if you go into a new apartment and you sign a contract with the guy, the owner, the landlord, and you sign the contract for 1 year? If you understood what I said so far, is this man under the obligation to put him a mezuzah immediately, or he can wait 30 days? Immediately. Because by signing a contract that it is for a year, he shows that he is a permanent resident. Therefore, a mezuzah is required on the spot. In fact, the poskim say that if he has no mezuzah now, he should go to a hotel. He should go to the house of his friend, wherever he can, and he should not reside in his house without a mezuzah. That is, of course, in a situation when he could have a mezuzah, only he is negligent, for example. But if he cannot, other opinions are more flexible in this. Also, besides the one who has signed the contract, could you think of another possibility that will make it an obligation upon him to immediately put a mezuzah as soon as he enters?
Like if you dorm in a college?
Well, wait a minute. You dorm in a college? No, that's a different question completely. You dorm in a college, you are going to be in a college, you have to put a mezuzah. Now, what happens if you are with, let's say, if you have, that's a different question. Do you put a mezuzah when you are in a room which you share with others who are not Jews? If they are all Jews, no question here. If they are not Jews, there is something to discuss there. If they do not agree, you are allowed to stay without. Or try to find another location. But anyway, coming back to our question, can you find another way, besides the one that we mentioned, that if you sign a contract for 1 year, then of course you have to put the mezuzah immediately. Huh? But still buying, we cannot be sure that he stays. Maybe he will change his mind. We give him 30 days. Or maybe you are right. But there is another way. If you enter your house, the new house, the first day, but the first day already you put there the most beautiful furniture, refrigerator, and everything. On the first week you already fill up the house with furniture. That is evidently a sign that you are planning to stay. Therefore, you are considered a permanent resident from the first day, and therefore you have to put the mezuzah immediately. And that's what we find in the poskim. You could look in the books Sdei Chemed and Aruch HaShulchan, so forth. One more question about this. Many people, they buy a new house. As you know, once you buy a new house, you are under the obligation to do what we call chinuch habayit, some kind of inauguration. The Kabbalists say that it is for the purpose to get rid of foreign forces, mystical forces that are destructive. You know, when you have a new house, there is some kind of jealousy. We spoke about jealousy tonight. You know, the devils also are very jealous. They enter a new house. To get rid of them, you have to do a certain service, according to our belief, according to our tradition. It's not a law of the Torah. It is a tradition that is well kept by many Jews. You enter a new house, you prepare a seudah, you bring at least 10 people, 10 men, and there is a ritual reading that has to be going on in a book, and a rabbi that will talk, that will then, you clear out, you let the walls of the house hear, listen to the words of Torah. That does something to the forces of evil. The forces of evil will be chased out, and that's the reason why we do chinuch habayit. The truth is, halachically talking, the real reason why we have to have some kind of religious service when you have a new house is so that you say thank you to the Lord. Very simple. Thank you, Hashem, for giving me the possibility to have a beautiful house. There are so many people that they cannot afford, and you gave me that possibility. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, the question vis-a-vis the mezuzah. What do you do now? We said there is now something that stands in conflict with what we said before. We said as soon as you enter, you have to put a mezuzah. But lo and behold, you know that many people come with this question. When should I put the mezuzah? I have to do the chinuch, I have to do the inauguration, the night. Right? But I'm not going, and how long do you wait? I mean, even though many people make the mistake of waiting too long to do the... By the way, if you didn't do the inauguration, the chinuch habayit, even if 2-3 years passed, you still have to do it. It's better. But
apartment also?
Of course, yes. Even an apartment, you have to do chinuch habayit. Some opinions are more flexible in this, but we follow the rigid opinion of the Kabbalists especially, who require that even an apartment you have to do chinuch habayit. We did it, I did it many times. My children did it, all of them. Before they got their house, they lived in an apartment, rented apartment, and they had to do the chinuch habayit. Now, many people, they take their time. It's not advisable. Again, the 30 days come forth, and the maximum that we wait is 30 days. It's better always to make sure that you do the chinuch habayit for a new house or a new apartment, maximum 30 days after you acquire the apartment. The question is that many people have another maybe misconception in their mind that they have to put a mezuzah the night of the chinuch. If I have to put the mezuzah in the night of the chinuch, that means I will have to put it only when I do the chinuch, right? And that's at least 30 days after I entered my house, which means am I allowed then to remain without mezuzah until the night of the chinuch or not? But it's a very, very quality question. What should we do in that case? So I'm going to offer a certain possibility that is brought by Rabbi Moshe Feinstein in his classic of Halacha Igrot Moshe in Yoreh De'ah in chapter 179, and he writes the following. When you enter a new house, you have to have a mezuzah immediately, no question about it. You bring the mezuzah, you don't have to fix it in a way that is hard to take it out. You could put scotch tape, for example. And don't say a bracha, because the bracha is only a preparation for the mitzvah. The real mitzvah is to put the mezuzah. I mean, if somebody put the mezuzah without bracha, that doesn't mean he didn't do anything. It means that he did the mitzvah, only, unfortunately, without bracha. Remember this, by the way. Because many people think that if I don't, what's the beracha? I think that without the beracha, you cannot fulfill the mitzvah of mezuzah. That's not true. You could fulfill the mezuzah, the mitzvah of mezuzah even without beracha. But of course, we are told that for every mitzvah you have to do bracha. You have to do the blessing. Now, we advise then, in this case, that you enter a new house. You have to put the mezuzah immediately. You put the mezuzah in a way that it's very easy to take it out. You don't say a bracha, leave it there. The night of the chinuch, when you have the little seudah or big with the people, then you get up, everybody gets up, we go to the doorpost, to that door, which has that particular mezuzah. You take out the mezuzah, and now you put it, you fix it on the doorpost with the beracha. And that's how you do it also that night, and it takes care of everything. What happens in case you made a mistake and you put the mezuzah and now it's stuck and very difficult to take it out? Remember, provided in the very beginning you didn't say the beracha, as we have suggested. Right? We have suggested that when you enter, you don't say a bracha. You put the mezuzah without blessing. The night of the chinuch, then what you do, in case if you could take out the mezuzah, it's better. You put it back with the bracha, that's the best. But if you cannot, all you have to do is put your hand on the mezuzah and say the bracha. That is, of course, on condition that you never said the bracha before, which you shouldn't. You shouldn't say the bracha before until the time of the chinuch is over. Understand? So that's what we suggested according to the psak of the Igrot Moshe, that the night, and even the arrangement that we said is covered also by the Igrot Moshe. By the way, in case you are one of those in the category that who wait 30 days before they put the mezuzah, we did describe that there is such a thing. Let's say you cannot find the mezuzah, but you have a reason, and now that reason allows you those 30 days. But what happens if on the 30th day it falls on Shabbat? And now Shabbat you cannot fix the mezuzah. Nobody is allowed to do that. So what do? Are you going to pass the Shabbat also without it? That means it is 31 days. So what do? In that case, you have to do it, you have to fix the mezuzah on Erev Shabbat. Before Shabbat. Even though it is 29 days, that's the maximum in your obligation. That's the halachic issue that we leave for the night. To conclude the lecture, we are going to say, we learn from Korach many things. We learn from him that jealousy is very, very murderous. That's a sickness that can kill people, and not only the guy who is jealous himself. There were several big people in the history of the Jewish people who were affected by this malady, by this disease that we call jealousy. Who are they? Who are the first? Who is the first one? Who was it Cain? Perhaps that's the reason why he is called Cain, right? Did you ever ask yourself why the name Cain? Our sages said that Shma Garim, the name, decides even about the future of a person. Cain comes again from the word kinyan. Cain, like his mother said, Chava. When she gave him the name Cain, she said, Kaniti ish et Hashem. I acquired a man with Hashem. Which means now I have a man, my love is going to be divided between God himself and my son. So he was named Cain. But lo and behold, that Cain also reminds us of the word kin'ah, which is jealousy. Which was the reason why Cain got up and killed his brother Hevel. Remember the first murder of the history of the Bible, of the world, by Cain. What caused it? Jealousy. Well, you know the story of the jealousy of Cain. What happened? Hevel, his brother, was a good man, and he offered sacrifices to Hashem from his flock, from his herds of lambs, and he brought from the best, and his gift was accepted by the Lord. Cain was in fact in charge of the land. So what could he offer to God? Tomatoes and potatoes. No potatoes. There was no potatoes then. But let's say the produce of the land. But his gift was not accepted by the Lord. And he got hurt. Don't ask me how they knew. In those times they knew. He got jealous from heaven. And he said, the Midrash tells us, he came to his brother. He said, hey, what are you doing? How come your gift is accepted and mine is not? So Hevel says, maybe you have to check yourself. Maybe something is wrong with you. He said, you are using my property. You are standing on the land. So Hevel says, well, what should I do? I mean, the land is yours, but where can I go? He said, Perach ba'avir, fly. I don't care. This was, of course, the discussion, the argument. And then the Torah tells us, one day, Vayakom Cain. Cain came, of course, it must have been a very long story of jealousy, of hatred, and everything, of envy. And Cain one day decided, and he murdered his own brother. So you think this was the first case, of the jealousy?
The snake.
The snake is the first case. We call it in Kabbalah Hanachash HaKadmoni, the ancient snake. He, the one that brought death upon the world. He, the one who caused Chava and Adam to be chased, to be expelled from paradise. What was the jealousy of the snake? You'll be very surprised. Chava was very beautiful, and the snake was a very beautiful being. He was not on his. He was not crawling then. The snake was going on his legs, and he got jealous from Adam for the beauty of his wife, and that's why he decided to come and influence them to sin and to eat from the tree of knowledge, which was the reason why death came upon the world, and why Adam was expelled, and why everything else happens in the world, because of this, of the Nachash HaKadmoni in the vernacular of Kabbalah, the ancient snake. When we refer to Satan, when we refer to the sin from the original sin, it's Nachash HaKadmoni, the ancient snake. But there were other figures. Of course, that one, the first one, is what projected the atmosphere of jealousy in the world, and then perpetrated by Cain, and then humanity became obsessed with jealousy in everything. But there were other people who were affected with jealousy. Of course, everybody is, but those people became very famous because of that. And we know, for example, of Korach. That's the third case. I'm talking about the classical cases. And then we have Bil'am also. Do you know that Bil'am was jealous? What caused Bil'am to hate the Jewish people? You know what caused him to hate the Jewish people? I'm going to tell you a revelation that will make you pop up. Everybody thinks Bil'am hated the Jews. Why did he hate the Jews? I mean, if he lived today, we would say that he is Hitler. All right, after 3,000 years of Judaism in the world that doesn't want to perish, I could understand them why they hate us. But Bil'am, what do you want from the Jewish people? They just received the Torah. They are now going to the Holy Land, and now you hate them. What's going on? But the Torah tells us, when he was asked by Balak to curse the people of Israel, and he did not succeed. Of course, this story should be left for the next parashiot, in which I will not be here with you, because I'm going to Israel next week for 2 weeks, and some, probably for 3 lectures. But I'll tell you at least an overview of Balak. Balak asked him to curse the Jewish people. He said, "Bienvenue, of course, willing." So he couldn't. Every time he tries, he fails. Why? God appears to him in the middle of the night, and he says to him, "If you touch my people or you do something to my people, you have to know he'll die." And he comes to Balak. He says, "What can I do? What God does not let me do, I cannot do against his will." When he saw that he could not succeed to curse them, he decided to bless them. Our sages explained, of course, he wanted to put Ayin Hara on the Jewish people. He got up on the top of the mountain. And what did he say? "Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael." He started to sing the praises of the Jewish people. He saw the camp of Israel, hundreds of thousands, millions of Jews situated in tents, holy tents, made in such a way that one does not see his neighbor. Especially he does not see the wife of his neighbor. They were situated in such a scientific way that shows the superiority of the mind of this nation, the nation of God. Bil'am was very smart. Our sages said that he was a greater prophet than Moshe. And you know why? Hashem did it on purpose. Because he said, at the end of times, the nations will come to me and complain. And they will say to me, "Hey God, what do you want from us? If you had you given us a prophet like Moshe, who would have been also good?" So God says, "I gave you a more powerful prophet than Moshe. I gave you Bil'am." And what did you do? Nothing. Bil'am himself, because of his jealousy, he sunk to the lowest level. So his wisdom did not help him. His gift of prophecy did not help him. When it comes to jealousy, it overcame everything, which is something that we should also watch for when it comes to jealousy between us and our friends. So Bilam, he got up and he said, I'm going to bless them. When he saw them, he couldn't help it. He wanted to curse. Our sages said, but it's like something obstructed his mouth. And instead of saying a curse, what came out from his mouth was a blessing. In fact, the blessing was so passionate that this blessing became part of our tefillah, of our prayers of every day. You know, those who come early to the prayer, they start always the prayers with Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov. How beautiful are your tents, O Israel. And that's why the king Balak said to him, what's going on? I hired you to curse them, now you bless them? And then Bilam said to him, don't worry, I couldn't curse them, but I'm going to give you a good advice. The only way to get to these people is by causing them to sin. Let the daughters of Moab, beautiful daughters of yours, Balak, let them go and infiltrate into the tent of the people of Israel. And you know, the people of Israel have not much power when it comes to that. And they will sin. And that's how you can at least have your revenge at them. It did cost us 24,000 Jews who perished because of the terrible thing that happened because of the sin with the daughters of Moab. So that's why we hate Bilam. But anyway, Bilam became hated and it caused him his own destruction. Why? Because of jealousy. Very quickly, we have also people like Doeg in the time of Shaul HaMelech. We have the people like Achitophel, the advisor of King David, who all succumbed to that disease which we call jealousy, and jealousy destroyed them completely. There are others, of course, like Adoniyahu, the brother of Solomon, of King Solomon, because of his jealousy, he lost his soul in heaven, and so forth and so forth. So we learn from tonight, even though there is so much more to say. Perhaps some other time we'll discuss.
Thank you very much.
We dedicate this lecture of tonight to the good health and refuah shelema for a baby, and who is not named yet. Hopefully it will be named soon. The baby, the son, the baby of Osnat. May Hashem bring upon her or him, upon him, good health. Say Amen.
Amen.
והקדוש ברוך הוא send him רפואה שלמה, מי שברך אבותינו הקדושים והטהורים, הוא יברך את הילד הנולד הזה למרת אסנת, ישלח לו רפואה שלמה, דרמחי ברבול שעשה גידיו, אל נא רפנה לו, אל נא רפנה לו, אל נא רפנה לו, וזכות התורה תגן בעדו, בכללו הוא יברך גם מיכאל בן בורוכוב, and Rosa בת סוריאל. יהי רצון שהשם ייתן להם רפואה שלמה. ריבה בת רוזה, לובה בת רוזה, רפואה שלמה. הודיה תמר בת קרן. יהי רצון שהשם ישלח להם רפואה שלמה. פיה בת ליזה. מיכל חיה בת אורית. בכלל הברכה אורית בת עליזה ואברהם. השם ישלח להם רפואה שלמה, לרנה בברהם ולשסה גידיהם. וגם רבקה בת נקדם. מלכה בת תמר. And Rachel bat Isha. And Aliza bat Rachel. I mean, Mat as well. Hashem yishlach lehem refuah shelema. Amen ve'amen. God bless you, my friends. Be well. And may I see you in good health. Be'ezrat Hashem in 2 or 3 weeks. God bless you.